Let's begin with the August 1st nationwide planned protest. Nigeria's federal government has appealed to youths nationwide to shelve plans for a proposed nationwide protest and express their grievances through dialogue. Nigeria's Minister of Information and National Orientation and the Minister of Youth Development spoke to newsmen after a closed-door meeting with the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, saying issues bordering on national development was discussed. They assured the people that the federal government will consider the grievances of the people and come up with a solution addressing their displeasure.
The President has said, all of us, there's no need for any protest. Let us all calm down. A lot is happening. Nigeria is going to move and march on. And we believe that whatever government comes up will be in the interest of Nigeria. We don't think that there is need for any protest. We are appealing for calm. We are appealing for a peaceful resolution or peaceful approach to any issue.
Well, I will just sincerely and genuinely advise my fellow young Nigerians to disassociate themselves from the planned protest, because it's really not a good act for the nation. We must all stand in solidarity with the nation, and beyond supporting government, we need to look at the entire Nigerian project and the impact of the economic reforms, especially the macroeconomic reforms of the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration is leading.
Chairman of the Southeast Governors Forum and Imo State Governor, Hope Uzodinma, has strongly advised organizers of the planned protests against current economic situation of the country to jettison the idea for fear of being hijacked by criminal element. Senator Uzodinma, who acknowledged the right of citizens to peaceful protests, stressed that the faceless organizers have not made any valid reason for protesting against a situation caused by global economic recession. He urged all well-meaning Nigerians to protect the country from persons who do not mean well for the nation.
This is about opinion of the people, and the protest is allowed in a democratic setting. But every protest must be reasonably conceived to be able to make political sense. I think it's too early at this time in the life of this government for anybody to come out to say he wants to protest. First of all, there have not been any engagement where those who are sponsoring the protest was able to tell us the reasons for the protest. Secondly, given the global situation today and the insecurity in the country, we have a very fragile political environment that, if not managed and protected very well, may collapse the entire country. So those who are going to protest, what is the reason for the protest? And if they have no reason for the protest, I think our advice, well-meaning Nigerians, citizens of this country who are making sacrifices, some of us have paid the supreme price for the existence of this country. We should guide our country very jealously. I think it is a wrong time for anybody to do any protest.
In the meantime, political economist Professor Utomi has addressed allegations from the Special Advisor on Information and Strategy, Bayo Ononuga, regarding Utomi's supposed role in mobilizing protesters against the government.
Position like there's something wrong with protests. Nothing wrong with protests. The only problem on the streets. I've planned many, celebrated them on the streets of Nigeria. So why would I be planning one and now hiding? That's the illogic of the whole matter. But to then wake up one day and get calls that I am planning an insurrection through protests that I didn't know were actually taking place was just absolutely mind-boggling. And so I thought, maybe there's a motive. In fact, I was going to ignore the whole thing until people started calling me, look, maybe this guy's motive is to set up the kind of thing they did for President Obasanjo under Abacha.
Frustrations with corruption and bad governance fueled protests across Kenya in recent weeks that resulted in lives lost and injuries and destruction of property. The protests have also put the Nigerian government on the edge. Citizens are now planning similar mass demonstrations. Our correspondent Igbalani Omoniyi tells us more. And as the citizens of Nigeria prepare for a nationwide protest against some policies of government, media practitioners urge the federal government to allow citizens to exercise their right. They also say there is need for government to understand the reasons for the planned protests and address them before the day. Our correspondent Chinwe Ugele tells us more.
Ahead of the protest on Monday, the citizens are believing that the government should rescind some of its anti-people policies, which have brought hardship to the doorsteps of many people.
But however, it is also the job of the press to sensitize the people that though the economy is biting, but I think the government are on their own part, are now feeling that the reaction of the youth may not be something that can be calmed just with issuing of press statement from the State House in Abuja, but something that needs implementation of and reversal, majorly reversal of the removal of fuel subsidy.
So for the government to say, please don't protest this, don't do that, what they need to do, since even before now, is call all the parties together and say, what do you want? Just in the table, what do you want? How do we do this?
The fear of the protest by the government of the day is a source of concern for journalists.
So when you say people, because this is democracy, don't say people should stop protesting. For me, I don't see it right. To protest is because I saw this is like this, and I don't want it to be like this because it's affecting me.
Constitution provides that right for you to show your anger through a peaceful protest.
The government must take responsibility for the hardship that we are experiencing in this country. But I feel that, to me entirely, we may not get solution through protest.
The media will have a vital role of dissemination of information within the period.
The media don't carry they only write, they only report. All they need to do is just to be there to make sure that the people's voices are heard.
We are just like the mediator. We don't side any place. We need to give them how it is.
Report what you see that the people do, not to be in favor of government, not to be against the government, but the true reflection of the mindset of people.
The possibility of the protest turning violent, according to journalists, is dependent on the government's role before, during, and after the protest.
Which can only come from the angle of the government, if there's going to be any.
Ultimately, a peaceful protest in the real sense of it cannot harm any individual or government, but should achieve a shift in government's policies to help calm frayed nerves. In Omar for News Central, Chinwe Ugele.
Frustration with corruption and bad governance fueled protests across Kenya in recent weeks that resulted in lives lost and properties destroyed. Our correspondent Ni Omoniyi tells us more.
Kenyans took to the streets for weeks to protest the Kenya Finance Bill, bad governance, high unemployment and corruption. The youth-led movement turned violent at times as police responded, causing at least 24 deaths and hundreds of injuries. Now, Nigerians under the banner of End Bad Governance are planning nationwide protests for next month to press for an end to rampant corruption, insecurity and economic hardship in the country. Citing the violence in Kenya, the government, other stakeholders are worried.
It's definitely undermining the peace and unity of our dear country.
Your crying is right. Your complaint of hardship is right. But is the solution found in carrying placard and lining the streets? Is the solution found in copying a country lesser than us?
If it becomes bloody, we'll be at loss at the end of the day.
The protests, which already have the support of several top Nigerian celebrities, activists and politicians would demand better governance and restructuring of the country amidst rising inflation, hiking fuel prices and food crisis.
The reason why Nigerians are drowning now is because the only thing they enjoy, that subsidy on petroleum products, which affects everything, you took it away.
These are going to be the aims and objectives of this protest to drive maximum reform.
Some say if well organized and conducted peacefully, the Nigerian faceless protest could put pressure on the government to implement much needed reforms. But fears around proper organization, coordination and control still remain, especially due to the effect of the NSAS protest, which left in its trail destruction from which many victims have still not recovered.
The mistake that Nigerian youths made during NSAS is what Kenyans are making now. Because when they started, like you said, they started well. And on the second or third day, the government had promised that the 5 demands will be met. 5 for 5. And they achieved that. That will have been the end of it. But they expanded their demand. That is like shifting goalposts in the middle of a football game.
If the protest is peaceful, you will see us protecting the protesters for as long as they remain peaceful.
The question remains, will Nigerians succeed in channeling their challenges into a productive protest for change? Will they know when to stop? Or will the country witness the type of mayhem currently rocking Kenya, or even in NSAS protest in 2020?
No one should be left behind.
While the government discourages any protest and is doing everything it can to avert the event, only determined organization and disciplined participation will provide the answer. In Lagos 4 News Central, Igbalani Omani.
And to unpack this, I'm joined live on the news by Francis Nwapa, who is the National Secretary of Youth Rights Campaign. Good morning. Glad to have you join me on the news.
Good morning. And good morning to our viewers.
All right. Perhaps I should start with different reactions we have seen from different quarters. You know, some calling for the planned protest to be shelved, others asking for the government to dialogue with the organizers of the protest. What's your reaction to all of this?
Well, firstly, let me say that I'm the National Secretary of the Youth Rights Campaign, which was one of the organizations that played a pivotal role during the NSAS protests, and has also played pivotal role in working class protests and struggle, you know, across the nation. I would say that the ruling elite of Nigeria are aware of the hardship that have been imposed on the Nigerian people ever since this administration came in. It has become necessary for Nigerian people to embark on this protest because life has become miserable for people, especially the Nigerian youth, who can no longer feed. As I speak to you, most Nigerian youths depends on friends and families to survive daily. Some have to resort into criminality and prostitution for them to survive. And you wonder, how do you now hold such people who have been debased, who have been kept under slavery, poverty, and misery? How do you now think you can hold such people from coming out to protest? I don't think the government understands what is coming.
Mr. Nwapa.
The Nigerian people, yes.
You know, just to chip in there, Mr. Nwapa, in as much as, you know, we understand that things are no longer how they used to be. I mean, headline inflation is now at 34%. We have food inflation at 41%. But do you think this protest is the only alternative? How about other means to negotiate? What do you make of that?
talking about negotiation, then you should compare you should talk about the NLC negotiation. What came out of it? This system, this set of individuals does not need negotiation. The only answer to this is for the Nigerian people to prepare themselves for the protest in August. Because you are talking of a regime that in the midst of poverty and misery has spent over $150 million in the purchase of a jet. You are talking of a regime that have kept on lavishing the resources of Nigerians on buying yachts, on renovation of houses for vice presidents, on buying SUV for lawmakers. Is that the kind of regime you want to negotiate with?
But when you
These people have shown that.
I mean, when you say there is no room for dialogue or negotiations, there are concerns, you must agree, regarding the protests, planned protests, that these protests, this planned nationwide protest, may perhaps snowball into anarchy, and then lives and properties may be lost. What do you make of that?
I don't think so. It is only the government and its puppets that promote such narrative. Firstly, let me say that the word peaceful protest is undermining the right to protest. Protest is a right. And you saying peaceful protest is undermining that right. So I am going out with my placards to protest. The only person that has the power to make a protest not to be peaceful is the state and the state machineries, because they are the ones that are coming with guns and tear gas. And so they are the ones that have the capacity to make a protest not to be peaceful. They are the ones that sponsor talks. We saw what happened during the NSAS. The pictures are all over internet.
But
where BRT was used to convey thought, to attack protesters, where DSS vehicles were used to convey thugs to attack protesters.
But do you have proof of that?
Thugs that were holding marches.
I must chip in at this point.
We have proof, all over internet.
Mr. Nwapa,
we have proof of that.
Okay, I mean,
it's all over the internet.
Those are allegations, just to ensure that you have proof of what you're saying. But then, do you think, a dialogue between the government and then organizers of the planned protests would be probably, a silver bullet and then a way forward?
Why do you wait for dialogue when you already know the demands? Reverse pump price of fuel back to pre-May 29. Reverse the education commercialization. This government has taken education out of the reach of the poor by introducing loan instead of giving grants to our students. Our students can no longer go to school. Reverse electricity tariff. I tell you today, as a result of the discriminatory categorization of electricity users, the community where I stay, I recharge 2,000 naira every day. So it means that any day that I don't have 2,000 naira, I will sleep in darkness. What kind of government implements such policies? And it is important for us to note that these governments do not have the interests of Nigerians at heart. Rather, it is there to satisfy the policies of IMF, World Bank, to further impoverish the Nigerian people that have been impoverished during the Buhari administration. And so they already know the demands. Meet these demands before the commencement of the protest, so that there won't be need for negotiation.
All right, that's the most we can take. Thank you so much.
Protest is not a protest.
That's a fine place to wrap up. For time, Mr. Nwapa, if you can hear me.
Mr.
Nwapa.
These are Nigerians that are hungry and are ready to protest.
Mr. Nwapa, thank you so much for your insight on the news. National Secretary of the Youth Rights Campaign, many thanks indeed for your time. Thank you for staying tuned. The ongoing political crisis in Rivers State, South Nigeria, seems not to be relaxing soon, as suspected thugs loyal to the FCT minister, Nyesom Wike, allegedly disrupted the state government health program at Obiakpo local government area of the state. Now, an eyewitness who pleaded anonymity said the event aimed at aiding pregnant women and nursing mothers in the areas was abruptly brought to a close as they ran for safety when the armed thugs arrived. She notes that the suspected thugs were allegedly led by a senior police officer, name withheld. She said upon arrival, the police officer and his men shot sporadically, fired tear gas indiscriminately, causing panic and endangering the lives of vulnerable attendees. Also at an empowerment program organized by the Ikwere Local Government Caretaker Committee, the suspected thugs stormed the venue, destroyed cars and fired shots, as some persons were yet to be found. A former Kano State Governor, Rabiu Kwankwaso, has weighed in on disagreements between the Dangote Refinery and the Nigerian regulatory authorities. Nigerian regulatory authorities had accused Dangote Refinery of rolling out substandard petroleum product, a claim the company has refuted. In his reaction, Kwankwaso blamed what he described as unnecessary fuss on vested interests, saying it could damage investor confidence in the Nigerian economy. The presidential candidate of the new Nigeria People's Party in the 2023 general elections described Dangote Refinery as a crucial asset for the nation's energy needs and economic stability. He also stressed the importance of protecting the asset from any threat that could undermine its operations. Landlords and residents of Maplewood Estate in Agege, Lagos State, have urged the Ministry of Justice to interpret a judgment that will enable parties to understand their limitations and boundaries. Some residents also urged Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu to intervene to ensure restitution of the master plan of the area. Now, some residents have been in disputes with the school proprietor, Mr. Peter Motosho, who an alleged the defacement of the estate's master plan, which he denies. He denied unlawfully converting green areas into school, thuggery, and physical attacks.
My name is Najim Damlola. I'm the school administrator of Eyes on the Future Schools. According to Mr. Akirile's allegations, he alleged that the school has not been paying, the school and Engineer Motosho's residents has not been paying estate due, and Engineer Motosho will not pay estate due, school will not pay estate due because the school has been burglared 3 different occasions, cutting away the 7 brain box of the buses, school buses, cutting away 10 of the school laptops, and a huge sum of 1.3 million. And all these cases were actually reported to the police stations. None of the none of the estate's executives show concern about this. They were aware of it. If you go, according to his allegations, he also mentioned someone, Mr. Bolarinwa, who also he was aware. He's one of the executives, and none of them till date has shown concern about that. And the school, so that why should I pay for any dues when you are not even on my side, or you are not even working as a family with me? So there was no need. And moreover, association is not obligatory, is voluntary in the estate. You also allege that Engineer Omotosha has always been bringing in talks, but you have never for once provided the talks. The talks, the cases that you said, the same set of people, which is myself and my brother and
Stakeholders in Nigeria have tasked citizens to join efforts aimed at ensuring that Nigerians cease to suffer discrimination based on their faith and religious beliefs. Now, this was during a public presentation of a report by Nigeria's National Human Rights Commission, Nigeria's National Orientation Agency, in collaboration with other stakeholders as part of strategy developed to monitor freedom of religion and belief in the country. Our correspondent Idong Joseph tells us more.
Freedom of religion has for long been of significant concern globally, and Nigeria's history of religious tensions between its 2 major religions, Christianity and Islam has led to the loss of lives and properties, worth millions in naira. This has also posed threats to Nigeria's coexistence, despite legislation to promote religious tolerance among different faiths.
Islam and Christianity preach peace, togetherness, and love for one another and fellow citizens. And I do not think that it is different with the traditional worshippers, I guess. One therefore wonders why our dear country has continued to witness avoidable cases of religious intolerance, which in some cases led to killings.
Given this challenge, Nigeria's Human Rights Commission, the National Orientation Agency, with several other stakeholders, say it has concluded the first phase of a strategy developed to monitor freedom of religion and belief in the country.
To achieve the desired results, the project foresees the creation of a sustainable and operational network aiming at monitoring and reporting violations.
The insights garnered from this survey provide a comprehensive perspective on the current state of religious freedom in Nigeria.
They appeal to citizens to shun acts which promote disunity and animosity in the name of religion.
Appeal to the conscience of citizens that there is no gain in fanning the embers of discrimination and hatred for the sake of religion.
Those who hide under religion to perpetrate wickedness, including killing, destruction of properties, to desist from such vices.
We should collectively be an advocate of sensitization to the general public about the core subject matter, human rights, and the specific topic, violations of religion and belief in Nigeria.
With many conflicts in Nigeria perpetrated on the basis of religion, experts say once religious freedom can be achieved, Nigeria will be a better place. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idong Joseph.
The government of Plateau State has earmarked a total of 1 million people for access to treated, clean and potable drinking water in the state. And this was made known by Engineer Jonathan Malan, the program coordinator of the Plateau State Sustainable Urban and Rural Water Supply, Sanitation and Hygiene Program. Engineer Malan was speaking during a press briefing and described as one of the emergency measures to ensure that waterborne diseases, including the current outbreak and spread of cholera in some parts of the country, do not filter into Plateau State. Our correspondent, Chizo Banyanwe, tells us more.
Water is the major essence of livelihood, without which living will be impossible. This is the reason these stakeholders are gathered here to make public measures put in place to ensure the availability of potable water, which is the main drive against waterborne diseases.
The present administration is buying bulk, has approved the purchase of bulk assorted chemicals that will last the lifespan of this administration. And they have started being supplied. The general manager says, telling us the supply is ongoing now. So all the chemicals that the water agencies require for the next 3 years, they are the ones being supplied in the store of the Just Water Services Corporation.
Regulatory agencies in charge of potable and clean water for consumption will henceforth be under government scrutiny to ensure compliance to standards.
People that grant license to the production of sachet or bottled water is NAFDAC. NAFDAC have that responsibility. But we will not fold our arms as a state to continue to allow NAFDAC to issue licenses to people that are not producing water that is basic in terms of it does not meet the standards, and our people are dying. We will not fold our arms. Our law clearly stipulates the regulation of private operators in the water sector. What we are looking forward to is to activate the Water Regulatory Commission in the state. The law has provided for its establishment.
Non-payment of water tariff, theft of water through the bypass of meter, as well as the inefficiency of the State Water Services Corporation will no longer go without punitive measures, as legal actions have been put in place to forestall non-compliance. In Jos for News Central, Chizoba Aniuwi.
Thank you for staying with us. At least 25 migrants have died and dozens are missing after their boat capsized off Mauritania. The country's news agency, AMI, made this known on Wednesday, the latest in a string of migrant tragedies off the coast of West Africa. According to a Coast Guard captain cited by AMI, the Mauritius Coast Guard saved the lives of 103 illegal immigrants and recovered 25 bodies following the sinking of their boat off the coast of the capital, Nouakchott. Approximately 300 people boarded a pirogue in Gambia and spent 7 days at sea before the boat capsized near Nouakchott. IOM said among the survivors, 10 people were urgently referred to hospitals for medical care and 4 unaccompanied and separate children were identified. The defense team in Senzo Meyiwa's murder trial says they will be opening a case against the police and state. The defense is accusing the state of fraud after some discrepancies in cell phone data evidence. Defense counsel for accused number 3, Charles Nisi, poked holes in the state's case, said evidence showed that one of the accused, Utomi Carlos, was in Johannesburg's Central Business District when the former Bafana captain was fatally shot. Nkuba's cell phone records continued to be dissected by the defense on Wednesday in the Gauteng High Court in Pretoria, where 5 men are on trial for murder of Meyiwa. Advocate Nisi said the complaint will be premised on fraud, altering and defeating the ends of justice, because this information is misleading the court. The Orlando Pirates star was shot dead while visiting his girlfriend, Kelly Khumalo, at her mother's house in Vosloorus on October 26, 2014. And to dissect this, I am joined by attorney with the University of Johannesburg's Law Clinic, and that's Elton Hart. Good morning. Glad to have you join me.
Good morning, and good morning to the viewers up in the West.
All right. Now, can we say the defense team has been finally exonerated, following all they have been saying all along? And how credible is the information that the state has been bringing forth?
No, indeed, I think the defense teams has finally gotten something to actually now also demonstrate to the court that somewhere, somehow, information is either tempered or altered to suit the narrative that the state is pursuing in court, to say that these are the 5 men that actually killed Senzo Meyiwa. And obviously also it became apparent because Vodacom, Pinky Weitlingham, was giving evidence that was in a PDF format, and the state presented it also in an Excel sheet, but the Excel sheet had missing entries. Now that, for me, it means that you have tempered with the evidence that was provided by the expert. And that already, if there's tampering with evidence, then the credibility of that evidence, authenticity, is all in question, and it should not be allowed. And it should then prove how many other instances did the state do this, because they have the tools to do these things.
But then, how do you think the alleged threats relate to the actual evidence presented in court so far?
No, and this is not the first instance where tampering and altering of evidence came to light. It was also with the photos that was previously presented, where the photographers came to testify, and there was photos taken of a crime scene, but that was photos that was taken after the crime scene was interfered with some of the people that was in the house. So this is not the first time, and this is now a build-up. And it might lead to that maybe this court might find these guys guilty, but if they go on appeal, the appeal court is going to actually reverse the judgment, because I see a lot of things that creates the impression that the police officers and how they behaved in this investigation was unethical, underhanded, and they're actually trying to pin a charge or murder case against these 5 accused and not really pursuing the real people and also the 7 that was in the house that actually knew what happened.
Well, I'd like you to speak on these discrepancies we're seeing in the phone records. How do you think they relate to the overall case against the accused. Do you think there are material to the charges or simply minor inconsistencies?
No, it is material to the charges because this cell phone data, how it was altered in the Excel spreadsheet compared to the PDF documents, and it makes it now more difficult for the state to actually say that the accused was close to the Kumalo house where Senzo Meyiwa was fatally killed. Yes, it put them in close proximity, but also that expert that they called Pinky Weitlingham said also sometimes if you get one tower congestion, the tower will then kick a signal to a further tower. So it is not even conclusive to say that they were as close as she alleged they were. So it creates more doubt and aspersion on the state's case, and it helps the defense teams in actually proving that there's other ways of actually using this data to say, but there is other possibilities that could also have occurred here. And also the thing that they had in court is like between the SIM cards and the actual devices, that you can leave a device but use the SIM card, leave a device. So that discrepancy is sort of half big and material to the charges against these accused. And if the defense teams plays it right, they can actually prove to court that this evidence, that's the only evidence that the state has to base their case on, is not conclusive to say they have committed the crime.
But then, I mean, what are the likely consequences we're looking at for justice if, determined that there was a deliberate attempt to manipulate or even fabricate evidence in this case?
No, indeed, if somebody was busy with fabrication of information to try and actually convict, then they should be criminally charged. If it's the prosecutors, if it's the investigating teams, they must be charged, because that leads to defeating the ends of justice, to make sure that people actually get the fair trial. So if it's found that it's either the prosecutors or the investigators that actually fiddled with the information to make it show something that it's not, and purport something that it's not, then it means that they're actually trying at all costs to make sure these guys are found guilty of the crime, a crime that they may have not committed, and that then leads to defeating the ends of justice, and they should be charged. If that is the case, that should be no other way in dealing, because you hold a higher office, higher moral ground, so that you make sure that not every person getting into a criminal court is guilty, but you should give them a fair trial, and the court should then, on the evidence, be placed in a position to make the best and just and equitable decision they can come to.
Well, fingers crossed, we'll see how these turn out. Thank you so much for your expertise on the news. Elton Hart, attorney with University of Johannesburg's Law Clinic. Many thanks indeed for your insight.
Thank you.
U.S. President Joe Biden says he has dropped out of the 2024 election to unite his party and his country, saying in a historic Oval Office speech that it was time to pass the torch to younger voices. The 81-year-old in a prime address to the nation urged his divided country to embrace democracy and shun hatred. In his first televised address since his stunning decision, Biden also hailed his 59-year-old Vice President Kamala Harris, who is set to be the new Democratic presidential nominee. And speaking in a hushed voice after a COVID infection, Biden used his powerfully symbolic setting to insist on his achievement while admitting it was time to move on.
The cause of this country is larger than any one of us. And those of us who cherish that cause cherish it so much. The cause of American democracy itself must unite to protect it. In recent weeks, it's become clear to me I need to unite my party in this critical endeavor. I believe, there is a time and a place for long years of experience in public life. There's also a time and a place for new voices, fresh voices, yes, younger voices. And that time and place is now. America's an idea. An idea stronger than any army, bigger than any ocean, more powerful than any dictator.
In sports, the FIFA Women's World Cup 2023 in Australia and New Zealand set new records, and now FIFA is distributing $11.3 million among 1,041 clubs from 48 countries across all 6 confederations. This money is given to clubs that release players for the tournament. In Nigeria, 2 local teams, Abia Angels and Rivers Angels, will receive a portion of this fund based on the player list submitted by the Nigeria Football Federation. Now, this initiative, known as the Club's Benefit Program, was launched before the 2019 World Cup to acknowledge clubs' crucial role in player development. The amount allocated for this purpose has increased from $8.48 million in 2019 to $11.3 million for the 2023 edition. Super Eagles defender William Ekong led PAOK Thessaloniki to the crucial 3-2 victory over Bosnian side Bok Banjaluka in the first leg of the Champions League qualifying playoff. The match was a seesaw affair as PAOK taken the lead twice through Constantinos, only for Borak to equalize both times. Ekong scored a decisive goal 5 minutes into the second half, securing PAOK's advantage for the return leg. This performance follows Ekong's impressive showing at AFCON earlier this year, where he scored important goals for the Super Eagles of Nigeria. African table tennis superstars Nigeria's Quadri Aruna and Egypt's Omar Assar have been handed tricky draws in the first round of men's singles in the table tennis competition of the Paris 2024 Olympic Games. Now, the draw conducted on Wednesday also handed Africa's flag bearers Egypt a big hurdle in the team and mixed doubles event. Aruna has been handed a familiar foe in Romania's Edward, while his compatriot Olachide Omotayo has a tough duel against Iran's Noshad Alamiyan in the first round of men's singles. Egypt's Omar Assar will face Madagascar's debutant Fabio, while Algeria Mehi Bololosa will take on Croatia's Timoslavs Puka. In the women's singles, African champion Dina Meshref of Egypt will face Spain's Maria Xiao, while her compatriot Hannah Goda will face Brit Erland of the Netherlands. Algeria's Linda Loraibi will take on world number 2 Chen Gemeng of China. And that's all on the news. But before we go, let's take a look again at some of the major stories. Federal government has pleaded for more time to address economic challenges. Kwankwaso has blamed Dangote Refinery saga on vested interests. We also told you that at least 25 killed and dozens missing in Mauritania migrant shipwreck. Send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen and do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch us live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Adebola Adedugba.